I want to share two things with you before we have the next group, final group come up. Two pastors we worked with. I admit I worked a little bit closer with the pastor of Lighthouse Baptist, and Okeala worked a little closer with the pastor from Providence, but it was still, they were teaming up together, we were teaming up together. Pastor Reeves will actually be in this area. He's the pastor of Providence in July. He is actually dual culture. He's from Liberia. He pastored the Church of the United States, went back to Liberia, to Providence. But he comes back 2 months a year to the United States to reconnect. He actually wrote his dissertation in the book form called Congregation to Congregation Relationship, a case study of the partnership between a Liberian church and a North American church. And I want to read just a couple of little things that he says, because it puts things in perspective. Two small sections. I grew up in the Providence Baptist Church in Monrovia, Liberia, West Africa. In 1989, a civil war erupted in Liberia. More than 150,000 men, women, and children were killed. Actually, more were killed since then. It's up to 250,000 before it was finally over. Thousands of civilians migrated to neighboring West African countries, Europe, and the United States. The doors of religious institutions, including Providence, were closed for months. During this ordeal, I saw individuals and at times whole families slaughtered. I heard the cries of the dying, walked among thousands of dead and dying, and felt helpless. Death was rampant, pain was pervasive, loneliness was real. Alienation estranged me. Prayer appeared unanswered. Hope seemed to vanish. Despair reigned supreme. Faith seemed to take the exit door. All my tears dried up like the Sahara Desert. Desires failed me, and darkness seemed to cover my soul. In the midst of this situation, God used me to minister to His people. I conducted services and shared words of encouragement with those who were downcast and disheartened. These experiences, which sometimes felt like stumbling blocks, became stepping stones in my own spiritual journey and involvement in holistic and practical ministries. God used this experience to set my feet on a higher plane. In 1991, I was called to serve as interim pastor, senior pastor of Providence Church. In 1993, I migrated to the United States, where I'll just say he had a church in Michigan, and then 3 years ago was called back to be the senior pastor at Providence Baptist Church, where he remains today. This was written by one of the teams from his church that went to visit, and I thought it says something about us. This is what they said when they went to Providence the first time. What continues to awe me is the inner strength of the Liberian people. They have so little, yet they have such a thankful and steadfast spirit. They keep on praying, trusting, and thanking the Lord that things will get better. Not only do they have strength, but they also sense an authentic and warm spirit in them. They were so welcoming. Jesus shined in their dark skins and their pearly smiles. They worship and live their lives in spirit and truth. And then on a more personal note, because I thought this fit together, I have a note coming back since we've been there, combined, written by Pastor Tamba Kiwa, and Joseph Morris, which were amazing hosts to us as well. Greetings, Pastor. I thought to let you take some rest after a busy mission trip to Liberia. You probably now imagine about some specific things and some key surroundings when you ever receive a note from Liberia. You may for sure still have fresh memories about the rock and roll drive for Ganta and interactions with the children at Lighthouse Preaching Point in Ganta and the school program. What about the situations with water, light, and cooking gas at the Baptist compound that led to the unceremonial migration to Karina and the Karina Hotel itself? You will still remember our interaction with the lady at the U.S. Embassy, the trip to Bow Waterside, the historic visit to the orphanage home, the group of 77, the YWCA, our trip around town when Lydia's car started to run some green fluid in the street, the measurement of you and Frank at the local tailoring shop on Benson Street. You will still remember the first dinner at Panchita, where all the Liberians sat at one table, and on the longer table you saw only team members from First Baptist at one end of the table, while Pastor Brian and his team firmly held on the far end of the same table. What about holding Pastor Tamba under your arms when church members were busy looking for him? That's a story. He disappeared. Were you on the dance floor at Lighthouse when we all traded our sorrows and shames and danced, yes, Lord, and how many persons cried? You definitely remember the baptismal and the rains, the Sunday school teachings and touching sermons that you preached. I did not realize that you all made great impact in the lives of people in Liberia until you left Liberia. Your trip to Liberia can only be described as successful and a blessing for Liberia and our churches in particular. No one will ever forget this visit. You also evangelized for our churches as new visitors are coming and expressing interest to obtain membership. I'm also happy that Lighthouse decided to name the Baptismal Center in honor of you and the First Baptist Church of Collingdale, and the Children's Ministry in honor of Compassion Corps. Anybody accepting Christ as a member of Lighthouse will have to pass through that pool, and credit goes first to God in recognition of your historic presence in Liberia and your relentless efforts to spread the gospel. A special prayer was offered on Sunday for your safe arrival in the USA, and we are praying to see you again at the shortest possible time by the grace of God. Please extend special thanks and appreciations to the members of the churches in the States for allowing to undertake the mission trip to Liberia, and our love to team members. May God bless the works of your hand as we dwell together in his vineyard. Signed by the pastor and Joseph. And a P.S. The church in Liberia will not stop thanking God for you all as you have added greater momentum to the work of the church in Liberia. The church, through the deacon board, expresses thanks and appreciations for the team's presence in Liberia. The church recognizes the fact that you left all busy and important schedules to fly miles away from home just for the love of God and service to humanity. Only God will reward you. The church overwhelmingly reaffirmed its commitment to the already established sister relationship between Lighthouse Baptist Church of Liberia and the First Baptist Church of Collingdale in the United States of America.